And joining me today is the Steel City agent, Amanda Gilson.
When I was born, my dad was there very briefly because he had to leave because it was calving season. So he had to go back to the ranch.
She calving?
You know, I was told at a young age that I was never going to amount to anything. And that has taken me into my adulthood to not feeling that I'm good enough. The country girl, so I was a tomboy. So you wouldn't find me over another friend's house playing Barbies. You would find me in the park digging in the dirt.
If we took social media away from everyone on this planet for 30 days, what effect do you think it would have?
Oh, gosh.
What makes you, the person that's picking on them, so perfect that their shoes, their clothes, their glasses are such a problem? Maybe you're the problem. If 10-year-old Amanda was sitting in my seat, what would you have to say to her?
Oh, my God. I ended up at one point with 6 stitches in my lip. He busted my lip open. I've had multiple concussions. He basically cornered me in the bedroom, and I think it was finally 2:30 in the morning. He had very clearly said that night that neither one of us were going to leave the apartment alive.
Welcome to the Barbells and Bourbon podcast, the podcast that allows real people to tell real stories. I am your big, bald, bearded, barbell lifting, bourbon drinking son of a bitch, Shaun. And joining me today is the Steel City agent, Amanda Gilson. How's it going? How's it going?
Good.
Welcome to our home.
Thank you.
How was your day?
It was good.
What was the most exciting thing that happened today?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. Driving in the rain. I don't know. Nothing too exciting today. Open house, that's weekend thing, but was happy to have like several people come through because they've been a little quiet. So moving forward into the spring market, I think, even at the higher price range, homes. So
yeah, I want to dig into real estate later because it's very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of real estate agents.
Yeah.
You're like one of 3 or 4 that I know. So I'm going to be picking your brain about that. Where do you live? Where are you from?
So I'm actually originally from Bozeman, Montana. I lived in Montana until I was 5, and then I moved to Seattle in school age years, graduated from high school there, went to college in Central Washington, and I've been all over the country. So I've been here in Plum since 2013.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're my most traveled guest. I think every guest I had.
I've been in 40 states in the United States.
I think I have too. Like lived or just
traveled through. But traveled through, when I say traveled through, that means like physically driven, not just in an airplane.
Airport connections?
Those, yeah.
I don't count those either.
My son and I argue about whether or not that counts. And I'm like, it doesn't count if you're in an airport. But he's been in 35 or 36. Wow. I have to see where his number's at. Yeah. When he was little, we drove all over the United States, just him and I.
So what are the states you haven't been in?
I have not been to a lot of the East Coast, like Maine.
New England?
Yeah, the New England states. I haven't been to North Carolina or South Carolina. I've not been to Alaska, ironically, even though I lived out that way. But that's, even for Washington, it's still a
6
trek.
hours or something, flight from Washington?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, it's far. Trying to think of, there's like maybe like Wisconsin. I know I'm missing.
I'm going there Monday.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez. I don't know. I heard that there's not a lot to, I don't know. Okay. There's not a lot to see
Sorry
there.
If you're a cheesehead, there's not much to do there.
Wisconsin. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that way I'm missing, but yeah.
So New England states I have not been at either.
Yeah.
So that's what, 4 or 5 that you could pick off real quick.
I actually would like to do that with my son, but he grows up way too fast. And so it's like, when does he want to go on a road trip with his mom now? He's going to be 20 in June. And I was talking with him about it. Like, I was like, what about, I don't know what to get him for like Christmas or birthdays anymore. And so I said, you want to take like, 5 days. And then of course, in the middle of winter, that's the worst idea for the New England states. So.
Yeah. Unless you love to ski.
I do, but my kids never learned any of that, ironically. So Caden was born in Seattle. Sawyer was born in Montana, but we came here when Sawyer was little. So he jokes, he's a Yinzer. Like, he's basically been here most of his life. So, but when I came here, people were like, oh yeah, go ski the hill. And I'm like, what hill are you skiing on? Because I'm from the Rocky Mountains. So Yeah, that's a little bit of a, they're like, oh, Seven Springs. And I like looked it up and I was like, okay. Like,
yeah, I mean, like 1,500 feet, like peak elevation. Rockies are.
Yeah, but I haven't done it for a while, but I did used to really like it. So. Yeah.
Wow. So you're well-traveled. In all that travel, you got to be thirsty, Amanda. And you already told me that you don't drink.
I don't, no.
Why? May you answer?
Well, for me, honestly, alcohol and ice, I don't mix. I've been through some very difficult things in my life, not only like physically dealing with autoimmune, but, I've dealt with anxiety and depression in the past, and you don't want to put a depressant with that. So I struggled for a while, getting diagnosed with an autoimmune disease in 2008 and having miscarriages and just a lot going on. And so that was kind of for a while something that I used as like a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It was my coping mechanism, as you want to say. Mm-hmm. And so I realized that it was taking me down a path that I didn't, want to see the end of.
Wow.
So I quit in 2017. Now I can't sit here and say I'm not like in a program. I don't do things like that. Sure. But I have drank a handful of times since 2017. But I don't even have I'm bartended for years and years and years. I could care less.
Yeah.
It's just not something that appeals to me. And like I said, with the autoimmune anyway, it's just not good for me. So yeah. I just don't do it at all anymore.
I respect that. So yeah, you made a life choice. Mm-hmm. It obviously didn't agree with you for many reasons, health reasons and emotional reasons. So proud of you. That's good.
It is. And it takes, a lot of people don't like talking about that kind of stuff because it's like, the secrets or we had talked about briefly about, the bad chapters in your life. But everything that I have gone through has made me into the person I am today. Even, I've worked my butt off. I have taken accountability for my mistakes. I don't pretend that I've never done anything wrong. I'm very open with my conversations with my children, especially my older one. Him and I are extremely close. We talk about everything.
Yeah.
So, we're human.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, we all make mistakes, and as long as you learn from it, you can't be faulted for it. Right. Yep. So, well, I have 60 bottles of stuff that you don't want, but
you do have all the good stuff, though. I know
that. Have the fine folks from Project One Nutrition sent me some supplements that I can share with guests that don't want to drink, because drinking on this podcast is not a requirement. It's a passion of mine, which I like to share with others, but you don't have to partake. So I have Amp Nox. It's a caffeine-free pre-workout. I have Mbrax, which is a thermogenic, heats you up from the inside out, and Amino Evolution, which is your BCAAs and EAAs.
I think I'll try the aminos.
The aminos?
Yeah.
So this is blue.
I have been, curious about their products and trying them, because I have friends that have. And
well, they are fantastic. I've had, I think, all of their supplement line at one point, and I love them all. So you're going to get some nutrition benefits on this podcast as well. Yeah, just pour a little in. The microphone. So I overfilled on the episode I did with Dom. And I made a huge mess on the table. And I actually had to stop recording so I could clean it up.
Oh, I see. Hopefully I didn't put too much water.
If this is getting picked up on the microphone, I apologize. So this thing
mixing
rips.
aminos,
Yeah, that's fine. This is where I should start playing the Jeopardy music.
Yeah.
So Dom Hackenberg, my guest, said that they did not put any artificial coloring in this to keep it as healthy as possible.
Yeah, I respect that.
So definitely. Blue raspberry is not blue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I did that a lot with the kids when they were littler.
Cheers, Amanda.
No Skittles, no M&Ms, and I was the mean mom.
What do you think?
Oh, it is good.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's good.
Good though.
All right, Amanda. Before I have a guest on, I give you a call and just talk for a few minutes about logistics and just general topics that you are willing to discuss and things that we should steer away from entirely, because I never want you put in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot, good and bad. Take me back to your childhood. You said you grew up in Montana.
Yeah, I was born outside of Bozeman I was born in a hospital, but I always joke that because my mom loves to tell the story that when I was born, my dad was there very briefly because he had to leave because it was calving season. So he had to go back to the ranch.
Calving?
Calving, to deliver.
For the non-farm. Okay.
Yeah, cows.
I did not know what calving season meant.
Yeah. So I was there. My parents, I think they separated when I was around 3, and we stayed in that area. And then my mom met who would have become my stepdad eventually. And so I left Montana, I think it was 5, and started school in the Seattle area and grew up there, which was dramatically different, obviously, than Montana because we lived on a ranch. You know, and then we went to the suburbs. So, I had a good upbringing. You know, I watched my mom go through another divorce. You know, she divorced my father and then she ended up getting a divorce again. She still to this day and probably for always will be the strongest woman I know. She raised us, you know, pretty much by herself. Went through hell. I watched her go through hell. And I was the oldest. It was just me. And then I have 4 half siblings. So it was like you live in the nice neighborhood and everybody thinks that everything's awesome. But
behind closed doors.
You know, it was hard. We had a hard time sometimes. And my reaction was to basically run. And that's why I call myself a runner. When stuff gets tough, then I run from it. And I've learned now how to deal with it. So
out of fear, you would run?
No, I don't know if it was even fear. I felt for a long time like I didn't have a place that I belonged. I have a relationship with my dad, but I'm not super close to him because he got remarried and there was some tension there. I won't go too deep into that, but it basically for me for a long time, it was where do I belong? And, you know, I was told at a young age that I was never going to amount to anything. And that has taken me into my adulthood to not feeling that I'm good enough. And that is something that I've struggled with eating disorders in college. I would starve myself. I would work out insane hours. And then after that, like anxiety, like, you know, the mental health piece. And then going into all of a sudden here, like I'm diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. And so it was a very, you know, my 20s were very, very difficult for me. I met my kid's father, I think I was like 20, 21, but Caden was born at 23. You know, I had him young. Yeah. And I just really struggled for a long, long time to find my place. Like I've always had that attitude and I've always taught my children like the power of positive thinking. Like I used to make Caden listen to The Secret in the car over and over and over again. He probably could like recite it at this point. Like I put it on the TV in the morning and, but I couldn't get myself out of that place, like that, you know, that dark place, I guess. It was just, I just really struggled with health. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in 2008 and it literally grounded me completely. I was extremely sick for a long time. I was in and out of the hospital. I had blood transfusions. Like it was a very exhausting, life-changing. I wouldn't leave my house in fear of getting sick. Wow. And it wasn't even until after I moved here that I started to get a handle on it and found a UPMC doctor that's excellent. And I didn't go into remission until 2018. Wow. So I spent 10 years, you know, 5 of those very sick. So
a lot of obstacles along the way.
Yeah.
I do want to ask though, you said your mom went through hell. Mm-hmm. Are you able to elaborate on that at all?
her divorce was very messy, very messy. And I watched her, she wasn't sleeping. She was, trying to take care of us. There was a lot of things, some that I can't talk about, but that happened within the divorce and I took, I don't know how to explain this. I basically took like a caretaker role. Like I wanted to, I was 6 years older than my sister, 8 years older than my brother. But I watched her go through it all. I was old enough that it was impacting me as well. And PTSD definitely dealt with that. She hadn't been working, and then she went back to work after being home for quite some time. And she just, I don't want to say she shut down, because she was always there for us, always. And even now, I mean, I'm almost 43, my brother and sister are in their 30s, and she would, at the drop of the hat, get on a plane or wherever. We're all over the country now. She would be there for us. But she always put us first, even to the point where she did not date until about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And she's almost 73, I think. 73, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And yeah, I mean, she sounds like, you said she's the strongest woman you know. I can see why you say that. When do you think she finally found happiness, or was able to move forward? She did
a lot of work on herself, like through therapy and different types of therapy. And so I think she was she worked through a lot of things from like her childhood, because my grandfather was an alcoholic. There was never any abuse or anything like that, but she grew up extremely poor. She started working when she was very young, multiple jobs. She would even, like sometimes they wouldn't have money and they would need money for groceries, kind of a thing. And so money was always something, that can be a sensitive subject. Sure. Because that's really what it came down to in her divorce was money. And there's just a lot of moving parts when it comes to the, specifics of it. But she always, she went back to work. She worked her butt off. She was, in the PTA. She was there for us with our sports. And I have to say, I probably didn't contribute well, as a teenager, like with kind of just, like I said, not really knowing what my place was and acting out. And, I stressed her out. All of us did. But, she's a good mom, like despite everything.
Sounds like an amazing mom.
Yeah.
So you said you would just instinctively want to run from conflict or tough times. Do you feel like that you kind of ran from the messy divorces that your mom went through? Or did you
not just the divorces,
try to support her?
I tried to be as supportive as I could, but we went through a very tough time when I was a teenager, and we butted heads a lot. So I think, like I said, naturally, I just didn't quite know where I fit. Like I didn't feel like I fit with my dad's family, and my mom was going through this, and instead of being like super close during the divorce, like we were a little bit more distant. My brother and sister were much younger, so obviously they required like more attention. More care, yeah. But I think I held resentment for a long time I left Montana, and I've always done that. And I am much better about it now. Like, what if this? What if that? What if it would have went this way and not this way? Like where, and it took me a long time. And I am a huge advocate for therapy. I don't care who you are. I think everybody should have somebody that has an outlet, that's an outlet for them.
Unbiased outlet.
Yeah. Because you can talk to your partner, your significant other, your parent, whatever you feel comfortable with, but it's not the same. Right. It's not the same when you have to take somebody that's removed from the situation and a professional.
Sure.
So I've spent a lot of time working through a lot of that, and working through like the old coping mechanisms and the old thought patterns of not being enough. And, I've really worked at that.
So you said resentment. You resented your mom for bouncing around to different places?
I don't know I think there was some resentment there for taking me away from Montana.
Okay.
Because
so you feel like Montana was like your home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I still, consider it my home. We did live back there at one point, but, when people ask me where I'm from, I am from Montana. Yeah. I'm a country girl at heart. Like my first love literally was a horse. And that sounds funny, but.
So the song I chose for your teaser was completely appropriate. It was like a country girl song.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's so funny.
Yep.
So when you went from Montana to Seattle, I know that those are different worlds.
Oh yeah.
From
night and day.
And you've been saying multiple times you had trouble fitting in, finding your place, not only with families, but probably socially as well. What were the struggles that you had going to Seattle schools as a country girl?
Well, I was a country girl, so I was a tomboy. So you wouldn't find me over at another friend's house playing Barbies. You would find me in the park digging in the dirt. Like, that's the kind of kid I was. I'd be like, riding my bike to the park, like with a kite behind me, kind of a thing. Yeah. I was bullied in school, I think, because I was just not your typical like kid.
Yeah.
So
you were different. And unfortunately, when you're different, you get targeted, which sucks.
And that was more like grade school. Junior high and high school, like I kind of found my place a little bit. But, I had some close friends, but I honestly to this day can say that I don't talk to anybody from Seattle at all anymore, except for like social media, which is not really actual interaction.
No. Did you have an easier time connecting with like boys than girls?
I did. I did. But I also would find the ones that needed fixing and I would gravitate to them and I would try to fix them. So my pattern of bad relationships started right off the bat, like as a teenager. So I had 2 long-term boyfriends like in high school and both of them were horrible. One of them was abusive and the other one was a cheater. So it's like, I kept gravitating to the people that had that. I don't know. Like I always say that like I tried to fix them.
Because you thought they needed fixed, or did they kind of need you to support them?
I don't know. I guess I just gravitated towards the people that I felt like needed me for something. And so if they needed that from me, then that's what I gave them, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that stemmed from bouncing around to different places and like your mom divorcing?
I think it was
just the unstable childhood that you had.
It was me trying to find a place, but my own place, and create something that I had control. It was more, I guess, about the control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that didn't work out well.
Oh, no. Not at all.
So one was abusive, one cheated. When did you finally find a good partner? How old were you?
Well, so my kid's dad and I met when I was in college. Their dad will always be one of my best friends. He and I, though, when it came to a relationship, were like oil and water. We met very quickly. We had Caden very quickly. And we never took the time to really get to know one another. And we're completely opposite people, just completely opposite. But he loves his kids. He's a good dad. It just came to a point in 2015 where I was still dealing with ulcerative colitis. I was still dealing with like anxiety and, bouts of depression. And I was done. I walked away from my marriage. And I don't have regrets for doing it. I have regrets for the way that I did it, because when you hurt somebody, most people would naturally like feel bad about that. So it took us a long time, to get to the point where we can communicate and be friends and do what's best for our kids. But honestly, I would say I swore for a long time. And when I turned 40, I was like, I don't care. I'll stay single. I'm not doing this. I got into, I don't know if you want to touch on that piece, but I got into a relationship very quickly after my divorce.
Not yet.
No.
So I think I know where you were going with it.
Yeah.
So it was your decision to end your marriage.
It was.
And looking back, you resent it because you didn't end it the way you wanted to. Do you feel like the reasons for ending it were justified? looking back?
I think it was inevitable that it was going to happen. I just think that I did it very, very quickly. I had sat on it for a long time. I felt like all we were doing was arguing. And I finally was just like, I'm done. And I literally within a couple weeks, like I found an apartment, I moved out, I did all this. And so he kind of, I think probably was like shell shocked a little bit.
So you ran.
Yeah.
Quick.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Down the street to an apartment in Holiday Park. But I did. Yeah.
How did he feel about it? Did he want to resolve things?
I think that he knew finally at one point that I was done, but I know that it was very, very hard on him. I do. I know it was hard on him. And it took him a while, like I said, for us to get to a point where we could communicate. But he also got into a relationship fairly quickly after with somebody, and then they lived together for quite some time. So I kind of figured at that point, like he had kind of moved on. So
how did your boys take it?
Sawyer's really too little at that point to remember anything. Caden, you could tell that he did. That was like 5th, 6th grade, like in between. He went through a rough time. Now, Caden's always been my quiet, shy one. He's much more reserved than Sawyer. He doesn't want a lot of ruckus. He doesn't want, but it took us a while. Like I said, we're very, very close now, but he kind of, I don't want to say shut down, but he definitely was a different kid for a while, but he was also extremely protective of me, extremely. And you can still see some of that to this day, even though everything's changed dramatically for me. Like I've always said he's like, 19 going on 40. He's an old soul. Yeah. He's just that kind of person. I like him already. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you some personal questions along the way. If they make you uncomfortable, you don't have to answer them, but I'm just genuinely curious about things. Did your oldest ever resent you for the choice you made to end the marriage?
I don't know that that's actually something that I've ever asked him outright.
Because you said he was a protector of you, but,
Yeah, I don't think that I've ever, I think that, honestly, I don't know. I don't know that one. Yeah. I did everything I could to show him that I could be a good mom. But I don't think, he's never said anything like that to me. Yeah. No.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking is I'm divorced as well. And I think as a parent, confronting that with your kids is hard. Asking them, how did it make you feel?
Yeah.
And I haven't done that yet either. And, kids are kids. I'm sure it hurts.
Yeah.
Selfishly, sometimes we don't want to hear how bad it hurts.
Yeah.
But, I think those are good questions that need asked, and I need to do a better job of asking those tough questions too. So Sori was too young, which was probably for the best. How much contact do they have with their dad?
He is up here 2 or 3 times a year. So, Caden is at an age now where, he is used to him not being around. Yeah. He's been gone since 2019. And between 2013 and 2019, he was around a lot. In the very end, he was traveling. But when Caden was littler, too, it was just us. Like, him and I drove all over the country together. Now, we would go and we would be in Texas with him, or we would go to Alabama for the summer, or Utah or whatnot. But he's kind of used to it. Now, Sawyer, he's struggled. And I don't know if there will come a point when he does move back up here. And it's been discussed for quite some time now, and he's still not here. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I talk to my son and make him understand that his dad loves him, but I can't promise that he's going to come back up here. So and I know we'll probably talk more about it later. Like, I am recently engaged, and he is absolutely amazing with my children.
Good.
He does not treat them any differently than his own. Good. That being said, he has never ever tried to be their father, and he never will, but he's just trying to be someone that's a good example, provide an outlet. If like he's sat down and talked with Caden about career things, and he supports Sawyer in his sports, and they really haven't had their dad here for that. So it's very, it can be a touchy subject, obviously, but I hope to come to a point where their dad understands that, he's just trying to do the best that he can, like in the situation, and be there for them, so.
So I want to touch on being a step parent real quick, and then I want to ask you a question about Sawyer and his dad. So remind me if I forget.
Okay.
Being a step parent's very hard. And you said he doesn't try to be their father. And I've never tried to be a father to my stepkids either. Mm-hmm. I think the best thing a step parent can do is just provide stability.
Absolutely.
And that's what I do. Mm-hmm. I just try to be there for them, for whatever they need me for. I don't want to substitute their dad.
Yeah.
But I also want to be there if someone else can't provide something for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Support their sports. Mm-hmm. Tell them that you're proud of them. Help out financially when it's required. Stability. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's really difficult to understand where your boundaries are, or how wide or how narrow the guardrails are with what you're, I would say, allowed to step in with or allowed to do. It is tricky because you never want to overstep your responsibilities. But, I'm a passionate person with my loved ones, all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes I feel like I have to tone it down a little bit. You know? But anyway, it sounds like your fiance Mike has found that perfect little middle ground.
Sawyer definitely struggled, and it's gotten better. We moved in with him in August. So he struggled with, was it okay to have that relationship with them?
Because he doesn't want to let his dad down.
Yep. And I told his dad, I said, you need to tell him that it's okay to have a relationship with him. He does not need to feel guilty. And like I said, he told me that in the very beginning. And we have had he's a very different parent than I am. I don't yell. I'm much more laid back. Not that he's a yeller, but he's just the way that he parents is very much different than me. So we had to have that conversation in the beginning. And I said, we parent very differently. So you have to maybe tread a little bit lighter with Sawyer, let him adjust. And he's always been very, very receptive to everything that I have said. But he did say, I'm not going to treat him any differently than my own kids. So if they're getting yelled at for doing something stupid with the video games in the basement, they're all getting yelled at,
And that's sort of I don't say my rule, but if you're living under my roof, there have to be rules in place. Yep. It's just about respect, and sometimes I have to watch how passionate I get about certain things and the things I expect of my stepchildren. But like you said, I would treat them the same way I would treat mine. Yeah. If mine are doing something stupid, I would say something. It would be the same way if my but anyways, it's just tricky. It's a tricky position to be in. And I'm learning every day how to be a better step parent, or how to be a,
See, I feel very fortunate because I was, that was his biggest thing, especially, was he had never introduced anybody to his children. And honestly, the biggest thing that I was terrified of was his 15-year-old daughter, because I have boys. There was turmoil with my stepmother. We don't have a relationship. And I told him, even before I met her, I will never, ever treat her like that. With the boys, I will never try to be their mother. I will never, but I was terrified. I was like, I don't know what to do with a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Like and so I've learned.
What do you talk about? How do you act?
Yeah.
We shake hands.
And I told her this. So it's not a secret. I was like, I was terrified to meet you because I didn't know like what to expect. I didn't think you were going to like me. I didn't, but we have, I think have become someone to her that she can look up to. Like we do she's very good at like telling me whenever we're out, like, oh, I think we need Starbucks. So my Starbucks bill went up just a tad. My Ulta bill went up a lot. But she also, like her father and her mom and stepdad, who I actually, like, everybody is on good terms. Like, we'll sit next to each other at basketball games. I respect that so much because I never, ever saw that ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a good relationship with her, and his son he's just like a little, I don't know, he's like a little jokester, and him and Sawyer, they don't miss a beat. I mean, you wouldn't know that they weren't brothers.
Yeah, that's awesome. So he has 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And you have a boy and a girl, and then you have 2 boys.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like you're becoming a beautiful little family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember back to Sawyer and his dad. So you said when you divorced, Sawyer was too young to remember. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he built up a relationship with his dad since then to want him in his life.
Yep.
Was that over the phone? Was that visits? Like, how did that relationship grow when they were so far apart?
Well, so he was, so he just turned 12 last week. So, Casey was here up until 2019. So he was around him, but he was very, very close to the woman that he lived with for quite some time too, and her kids. And then that all went away. And that was very hard on him. That went away. His dad moved to Texas, New Mexico, and then it was just us. So, Sawyer is the one you can tell that he's a people pleaser 100%. And so I try to watch him because he's very emotional. Like the last 4 years, almost 5 years, it was just me and the boys. So they have me. I am emotional. Like that's who I am. So he very much cares what people think about him. And we're dealing with that like a lot, because he, being 12, like he's going into junior high next year. And I mean, it's not the same world that we grew up in. Like, kids are mean. They can be so very mean. And what my thing is like, okay, where do you draw the line? Like, where do you intervene? Where do you, I have the talk with him. Okay, well, if they're going to do that, then they're not your friend. Like, just shake it off, this, that. There was an incident recently at a basketball court, and another child in the same grade as mine called my son the P word. And I literally, I was so upset I was shaking. So upset. And, I know that kids, they don't talk the same when they're around their parents. But I told him flat to his face, I was like, if you ever talk like that, I was like, you will have like a bar of soap in your mouth. Like, you'll be grounded, your phone will be gone. I was like, I don't ever want to hear words like that come out of your mouth. So it's difficult because this is actually a conversation that his daughter and I had, because I said, just like walk away from them. Like, but it's almost like she said, if you try to just diffuse it by walking away, then it makes it worse. Yeah. You almost have to be a part of it and stick up for yourself.
Yeah, because if you walk away, you're a coward.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want him to stick up for himself. And some parents might not agree with this. I've always told him if something got physical, he's not allowed to start it, but he is allowed to finish it. And my child is allowed to defend himself. And he has. He had a kid picking on him. He wouldn't leave him alone. He was pushing him, and Sawyer turned him around and pinned him to the ground. I didn't punch him. So,
right.
But I said, oh, okay. I didn't even know what to say. I'm just like, okay. But it's hard because, we other parents, the way things happen in their household are so much differently. Like, kids swear openly now. And that does not happen in our house. Like, do we know that they say stuff when they're around their friends? Yeah. Okay. I literally would be mortified if my kid said that word. Yeah. I would.
Yeah.
I don't say that word. Like, I was like, 11 or 12-year-old kid called you that? So.
Yeah. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm going to. Kids are mean.
Yeah.
Kids suck.
Yeah.
And if you're under the age of 21, I apologize, but I don't at the same time, because it is such a problem when you're picking on somebody just because they're wearing certain shoes, certain pants, has their hair a certain color. What makes you, the person that's picking on them, so perfect that their shoes, their clothes, their glasses are such a problem? Maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're the weird one that has the weird shoes or the weird hair.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts that these kids are walking around in fear because they're not wearing the right shoes that are in today, or their jeans are just a different shade of blue because that dark blue's not in anymore. It shouldn't be that way. You should be able to be whoever the fuck you want to be.
Yeah. Thanks for podcast shoots,
but like, kids, stop being so fucking mean. Like, it's not necessary, and you're an asshole if you're being one of those kids, and I don't apologize.
Yeah. And the worst part is the parents condoning it.
Yeah.
They don't reprimand them, and you see this stuff, and it's like, I am half the time I'm like mouth open, like, how are these? I don't know. I just don't get it. And
it does start with the parents, but parents only have so much control or hands on their kids for so long in a day. Unfortunately, as a kid, you become who you're around in school.
Yep.
You become your friends. You become your social circle. It's just the way it is. And, you know, I've seen kids change completely just because of who they're hanging around.
Yeah.
And then they bounce to a different friend group and they're completely different people. Like, who are you? You don't even know who you are. You're just who you're around. And that's sad too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It pisses me off.
I'm very fortunate with Sawyer. Well, Caden too. Caden has had a very, very close, good group of kids. Like, there's a few that have come and gone, but pretty much since we got here, like, they're good kids. They come into not now, I don't live there anymore, but when they would come into my house, they would thank me for having them over. I know their parents. We went to Thanksgiving to one of his friend's house for 1 year because it was just the three of us, you know, and he's more laid back though. So he doesn't really like get caught up in the drama. But Sawyer, on the other hand, he's got two friends that I feel like I'm so fortunate. I'm close to their moms, like, just the most amazing people. Like, one thing that I saw with my mom growing up that I had here too was like the village. Like, I could not have done everything that I did without the help of some of people here, some of my friends. There's no way. My best friend who lives right down the street from my son, like I said, Sawyer's two friends, like their moms, like they would take him to basketball practice. If I had to work and he had a game, they would take him to a game. He would go spend the night and he'd literally stay the whole weekend there, you know, kind of thing.
The mom who.
But they're good kids. Yeah. And we've had those hard conversations, like, knowing that I know their kids don't talk like that. I mean, one of his friends, like, he would get embarrassed if you said a swear word. I'm like, I know he's not talking like that. So
that's my Alexa. She won't even say sucks.
Oh, really?
Like, she's 14.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's adorable. You know, then there's 10-year-olds dropping F-bombs.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay. But anyway, okay. We got to stop this conversation.
Just bottom line, it's hard to raise kids.
Yeah, it is.
Right now. It is. It's difficult. Are you doing the right thing? Are you, like I said, do you intervene? Do you not intervene? Do you let them work it out? Like, at one point, is it actually bullying? Do you make, you know, the year before that, he had another kid, you know, whose family is well known in this area, tell him to shut the F up. And I'm like, and he was 10. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. And we walked away from it. Kids
like that, the mean kids, karma's a real thing. A lot of the kids that I went to high school with that were the assholes, the popular kids, the ones picking on everyone, I see them today and it's just like, you got what you deserved. Yeah. And I hate to say that, but karma's a thing.
Oh, 100%.
You get treated the way you treat others. So,
and I get that the kids are not going to act the same around their friends as they are in front of adults. But if there's that much of a dramatic difference, like, you're personalities completely different. Like, yeah, my kid is not an angel. I don't ever claim that he is, but I know that he is not like acting like that when I'm not around. So.
Okay, we need to change the subject.
Yeah.
I'm like hot.
Yeah.
All right. You got into a relationship real soon after you got divorced.
I did.
Tell me about that.
He was 9 years younger than me. And once again, I looked for someone, he didn't really have a stable place to live. He had a horrible upbringing. And here I am, like already not, in the best space myself. And so I think he moved in with me it would have been like the summer of 2016. So about not quite a year after the separation. And we had talked before that, and neither one of us were in a good place. And it wasn't though until, I guess, late 2016, the first time that I was hit. And it's even now, like I look back at it and I can't, because I never saw that in the beginning. I never saw a violent person. I never saw somebody, but he was doing drugs and I didn't know it. He started drinking again, and I knew that obviously, but it escalated very, very quickly. I ended up at one point with 6 stitches in my lip. He busted my lip open. I've had multiple concussions. I've had the police called multiple times. There was more nights than I can count that I didn't know if I was going to make it out, because I was basically told that I wasn't going to leave the apartment alive. And somehow I did. I managed to talk him down. I kicked him out. He'd come back. I kicked him out. He'd come back. It was this vicious cycle. It kept going. I lied to my family. I lied to my friends. I lied to my ex-husband, because I think most of it was about shame. I was raised by a very strong woman. I come from strong women, and here I am literally letting somebody beat the shit out of me. The most vivid memory for me, it was Mother's Day in 2018, and I had to go to work. I was a server. I hadn't slept all night. He had kept me up all night long, and he kicked me down the basement stairs. Like all the way down the stairs. I went to work and went into the bathroom, and I was bruised like all the way down onto a concrete floor. So I look back at that now, and it's still, I'm almost in disbelief that I went through what I went through. The night that I finally was done, he told me, I came home from work, sat out on the back porch with him for quite some time, watched him smoke cigarette after cigarette after cigarette. And I found out later on that what he was taking was Adderall. So he was way overstimulated. So he basically cornered me in the bedroom, and I think it was finally 2:30 in the morning. He had very clearly said that night that neither one of us were going to leave the apartment alive. And I don't even know how, but I finally got out and called the cops. If they don't touch you, they can't do anything. He hadn't touched me physically that night. There was no bruises.
Threatened you with death.
Yeah. So I had to go to AGH, file a 302 order, go sit at the police station, give it to them, come back to the apartment, wait for them. I mean, it was an all-night ordeal. And they finally removed him. AGH let him out in like 12 hours. But he was, at that point, everything that belonged to him was removed, and he was not allowed to come anywhere near me.
So justice was served as far as removing him from the situation.
And for a long time, and that took a big toll on my self-esteem too, because it was, the physical abuse was definitely there, but more so it was the mental. Right. And I didn't think that, I couldn't get out of it. Like, he took my money to the point where I couldn't even pay rent. it was mortifying. Like I had no idea what I was going to do, and I could barely survive. And here, the weird part of all of it is that he would never, ever do any of it when the kids were around, ever. And it was, I'm thankful for that, even though Caden, I know, knows like some of the things that happened, but he never yelled. He never did anything like that when the kids are around. So Sawyer doesn't really understand, but, you know, I know to a point, Caden knows that some of the things that have happened, because he is not allowed to come anywhere near me. He has a protection order. I have a protection order, I guess I should say, against him. He has been in jail now 3 separate times for violating. He's walked onto the property, gotten arrested. It's happened multiple times. So, you know, my fiance knows everything about it. And, you know, we just deal with it when we have to.
So he's still in the area?
He's in jail.
Okay.
He's in jail now. He violated again in November. And conveniently, about 2 days before I filed the PFA violation again, the hard part is finding him because he doesn't have a home. And so if you violate, or first of all, you have to be able to prove that it's them. So what he would do is he would change, like with an app, the phone number he was calling from. So I couldn't prove that it was him texting me, and it would be some stupid off the wall shit that he would text. And I knew it was him, but you have to be able to prove it in a court. Social media didn't count. You can't prove social media. So what I finally got him on was an actual voice message. And then another friend of mine, he had called her, harassing her about me, and it actually said his name on the caller ID.
Wow.
So he is now facing multiple charges, including violating. So I don't know. I was very, I've been very open in the conversation with the advocate from the Hope Center. And I have also talked to her because my goal moving forward, you know, it might not happen this year, I don't know, is to be able to help other women that have been in the same situation. Because I was at a point in my life where I literally didn't even think I was going to live or make it to the next day. And then to be where I am now, sometimes I'm still just in disbelief that I made it through all of it.
How did you meet him?
We actually met through a recovery group.
Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't continue with anything like that. And then, I stopped and he didn't. So there were actually times that he would spit alcohol on me. I'm sober, not doing anything, pour it over my head, spit at me. It was, yeah.
Oh my God, Amanda,
it was,
to be put down to nothing like that is, I can't imagine what that could do to your self-esteem and your confidence, like you said. And for a man to be able to do that.
My mom and my brother came for Christmas in 2017. And about a week before, he beat the crap out of me. And it was the first time that you could physically see it all on my face, down my neck. And I covered myself in makeup the entire time they were here. They never even noticed. And I still and one of those things why didn't I? Because if I would have said something to my brother is 6'3", and
you would have killed him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 I think there's a lot of people that would like to harm him.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure if he ever did anything stupid, Mike. Well, I know for a fact. Yeah. I mean, he's very protective.
You said the P word earlier. People that can do that, men that can do that to women.
Yeah.
That's what you are. Sorry. You are.
Yeah.
So you see this in movies, and I'm not trying to compare your life to a movie, but it's the cycle. It's the abuse and then taking them back, and the abuse and taking them back. Mm-hmm. From your perspective, why do you take them back?
Because they claim that they've changed, and you see a change in them. And I did actually resume a friendship again with him after the fact. And finally I had enough, because once again, he didn't, after 2018 and I kicked him out, he got sober, got his life together. We were interacting, not on a relationship level, but I'm one of those people that I'm too nice. And it was more about money. Like, he needed help and this and that. And, well, I'm going to sleep in the cold and this and that. And I finally that would have been in 2019. I just cut it off. And I was like, you're not coming anywhere near me anymore. And then he trespassed onto the property, onto the house. And that's when the whole PFA thing started. And so since then, it's every year. He violates again. The criminal judge lets him out after literally no time, but this time with other charges on top of it. He's been sitting in jail since November, I think.
So this was all drug and alcohol induced rages. Well,
and a part of me too is I am that person that's like, why is that person acting that way? Because hurt people hurt people. Does it make it okay? No. Like, he was abused as a child. His upbringing was absolutely horrible. And so here I am trying to justify in my head, like, that's why he's doing what he's doing.
He's struggling. But you were condoning
but
to a point his actions.
Yeah, but I'm taking it all. Like, I'm taking the brunt of it.
How are you now with it all?
I'm good. I've worked, like I mentioned earlier, with the therapy. I've worked through it. I finally, after, I was in another relationship after that for about 9 months that, once again, me trying to fix somebody. And ironically, Mike and I have known each other for quite some time. He was Sawyer's wrestling coach. We've interacted with each other. It's really sweet because I remember seeing him at the wrestling gym and, at the matches, but he remembers us talking after one of his matches. And that would have been like the year where it was like around COVID. So we didn't actually have, like, they had wrestling every weekend, but it wasn't like counted that year. Right. And he remembers our conversation and like what I was wearing and everything. And I was like, oh, and I don't even remember. I told him, and I was like, I don't remember that. But I said something on Facebook one day, and he recommended a book to me, David Goggins. And I literally had freaking sticky notes all over my wall by the end of the week. Like, I'm sure you've read that one. Yeah. And that's how the conversation started. But for us, it was on and off for almost a year. And, us dealing with our issues from our past and being able to let somebody in. And we argue about which one's more stubborn. And I will still all day say it's him. But, he's used to doing everything by himself. I'm used to doing everything by myself. And so ironically, in the situation when everybody thinks the biggest concern is, the blending the families, like the kids are great. Like, they all sit around the kitchen table and make fun of each other, and it's fun. And it's him and I learning how to live with another person when you're used to being independent. Yeah. And so it's been like all the time we're sitting down, having conversations, like trying to be very open with one another about like, okay, well, that was shitty. This is why I feel that way. Whatever, relationships in general are hard, but then you add, you've been divorced, you have kids, you have, like with me, especially, like I have these past issues and I am a runner. So when things get tough, my immediate reaction is, well, I should probably just leave then. And he looked at me the one day and he was like, you're not in your past anymore. You can't just run. And I remember telling my therapist that, and she was like, he called you out on your shit. And I was like, yes, he did.
Yeah. How did that make you feel?
It didn't bother me, like, especially after she kind of like was like,
kind of made fun out of it.
Yeah. Hey, but we're still learning a lot about each other, but he's a pretty amazing person. He knows everything about my past. And at one point I thought that once I kind of just opened up and shared everything, that he wouldn't want anything to do with me.
It would scare him.
Yeah, because I feel like I have those broken pieces. And he looked at me with tears in his eyes and he was like, did you really think that was going to make me not want to be with you? So
it's a good man.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. How long into your relationship did you open up about your abusive past?
The abusive stuff, I told him, I've told, bits and pieces here and there, but it took me probably a good 4 months before I really let everything out that I'd been through. And it was a very defining moment in our relationship because it was like a weight that was lifted off my shoulders. Oh, sure. And he was like, now I understand why every time there was conflict, that you wanted to run because he's like, why were you carrying that? Why? Yeah. So, but yeah, he's, we're very different in he's I'm the dreamer and he's more serious and more, he's more of a realist. Yeah. And so we balance each other out, but all the vision boards and the things like that. And he's like,
eye rolls,
whatever. Yeah. Oh, the eye roll emoji is one of the most common ones in our conversations through text.
I love it.
I'll be like, I just stopped at Home Goods and I get the eye roll or,
That's so funny. Well, I'm glad you're still learning about each other.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you've had that open conversation about your past because your past does really create who you are.
Very much.
And not saying that you can't turn it to a new chapter, which we kind of talked about, but there's still going to be remnants of your past, no matter how many chapters ahead you are in your life.
Yeah.
And I'm sure talking about it feels good. As hard as it is to reminisce on, I'm sure it feels good to open up about it too, right?
Well, for a long time, it was about what are people going to think? It's the embarrassment. But there's so many people that have been through things that they're just not willing to share because it's the same thing. Yeah. It's the fear of judgment. Everybody's, afraid of being judged by, family members, peers, whatever, coworkers. I just recently told a couple of the girls that I work with closely at Realty One about some of the stuff and how I had sat down with another woman and done a podcast that hasn't aired, and she was like, I think it's just really freaking awesome that you had the courage to share your story. And I'm like, you would be really surprised. There are a lot of judgmental assholes out there. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be like that. And, and I have gotten into conversations about people because I've watched people in my life that I love struggle with addiction, struggle with mental health. And that's one thing that I won't argue till I'm blue in the face with people, but I will just say, until you or a loved one or something goes through something like this, maybe you should, not start thinking that you know what the answer is to everything. Yeah. That you think, oh, well, you do this, it's fine. If you haven't been through something like that or watch somebody go through something like that.
Stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. Judgment is an ongoing theme here, Amanda. With every guest I have on, we talk about judgment.
Yep.
Every time. Every guest I have on has gone through some shit. Mm-hmm. From abusive parents to trying to commit suicide to addiction to domestic abuse. You name it.
Yeah.
And until we have these conversations, I don't know this about that person.
Yeah.
And every guest I have on, I've judged in my own way.
Yeah.
But these stories are incredible. And as you're watching or listening to this, Amanda is another example of why not to judge somebody. It's just, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words for some of the things that people deal with.
Yeah.
And you seem, when I met you for the first time, you seemed like you had it all together.
Oh, yeah.
Successful, prim, proper. You just seemed like you were, the definition of just someone who has everything that they want or need.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed. You went through literal hell. Mm-hmm. But now that I know that, I respect you even more, I
appreciate that.
And I'm hoping everybody else will and does too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, the reality is that I can't walk around worrying about what everybody else thinks about me. Now, obviously, we all care about what people think about us for the most part. Like we're all, we compare ourselves to others. That's a hard one for me because although I have done very well very quickly in my real estate career, I still am like so hard on myself. Well, I could have done more. I could have had more listings. I could have had more buyers. I touched a little bit on the autoimmune stuff. So a year and a half ago, I was also diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Yep. That's what they think it is. It has been going down a rabbit hole trying to figure out what's going on. In July of this last year, my pain in my hands intensified to the point where I couldn't even brush my own hair in the morning. It was absolutely horrible.
And you're only 43.
Yeah, in next month.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So I went to, functional medicine doctor. I did a few different things. The first course of treatment for rheumatoid arthritis is something called methotrexate, which is a form of chemo and immunosuppressant. I fought that off because I was on it before. It does the exact same thing to you, just not as, it's not like a going in and get chemotherapy where, it's harsh, but it's still the same side effects. Mm-hmm. I remember the first night I took it, I woke up and my body felt like it was on fire. I thought I was going to have a panic attack. It was horrible. Wow. And they're like, well, we can't give you the next thing until you try this. My face broke out. I mean, and I'm not crazy about like that kind of stuff, but it's like, I just felt shitty. And so it wasn't until about 2 months ago that I finally started to see some relief because I was in so much pain all the time. It was hard to get up and even function. And through that all, somehow I still managed to accomplish what I did last year, be a top earner in the brokerage. Yeah. But then there's me going, well, I could have done more. But that's my personality. Yeah. So I will keep continuing to push myself.
Don't fault yourself for always wanting more of yourself, because that's a great attribute to have. That's a great, characteristic and personality trait. I allude to the cruise control people a lot. Mm-hmm. You're not a cruise control person. Mm-hmm. You're a full throttle person. Like cruise control is boring, just settling, for whatever mediocre. That's not you. That's not me. Again, I always try to say why people are drawn together. You're a hustler. I'm a hustler.
Yeah.
And I thrive off that. And it sounds like you do too. Never settle.
What is that? Like you say, there's the 5 people that you surround yourself with most. But I've always, what if it's 10? What if it's 20? Like the people that I work with, they are 100% a group of hustlers. Mm-hmm. I surround myself with people that do more than me and are smarter, or, I don't necessarily want to say they're smarter, but, whatever they are, I'm trying to learn from them.
Sure.
So those are the kind of people that I want to be around. I don't want to go into a room where I'm the best in the room.
Yeah.
Ever. Like I will always push myself to be around, those kind of people.
It's motivation to improve.
Like even watching Mike, because some days I don't like, it absolutely amazes me. Like the things that he's very good at time management, which he's trying to teach me, and just what he can accomplish and the things that, and he's like me though. He's like, it's still not enough. So we do have that in common, but
Mike and I sound very similar.
Yeah. He just got back into jujitsu. Mm. Like he'd been out of it for a while, and I could tell like how excited he was about that too. And so last night he was like, if I did like a competition, would you come and watch me? And I was like, well, of course I would. Yeah. Like, why wouldn't I?
Front row.
Yeah.
Mike, we got to meet, bro. Sounds like, we're like, anyways, real estate, still CD agent. How did you get into that?
So I worked at 80 Acres for a long time, just right behind Burger King on 286. Yeah. And there was some regular customers there, Mr. and Mrs. Urisic. They own Urisic Label. It's a local company. They also, I think, have like a warehouse in Arizona now too. But anyways, they very, very nice couple. I serve them all the time. And I had thought about real estate for a long time. I didn't have to work. I didn't have to when I was married to my kid's dad. But that's not me. I always have had that like entrepreneurial, I did like marketing classes and this, and I tried some of the, the like doTERRA and things like that. And I'd always thought about real estate, but I didn't know where to start. So they introduced me to somebody who is a very well-known agent in the area. And I did one of her classes. And the one thing that she taught me that I think that has benefited me the most is that you have to brand yourself and set yourself apart from other agents. There are, I think, close to 8,000 agents in our area.
Yeah.
If you want to be good at this, you've got to be different. You've got to, so that was just one small piece of it. But I did end up getting licensed after that. And I was with a different brokerage for the first year, and I didn't do well. And it wasn't anybody's fault there. It was just sometimes you need to find the right place and the right team. Mm. So I'm one of those people that everything happens for a reason. So I had shown buyers several different properties, and one of them was Cameron Yawkey's, who is my boss now. And I already had a couple of the girls that were there and had moved over from the other brokerage, like, Amanda, what are you doing? Come on. And I said, okay, like in my head, I'm like, if my buyers pick this property that he listed, then I'll do it. Yeah. And they did. So I did it. And it sounds so silly and like insignificant, but everything happens for a reason. And ironically, the woman who used to kind of be, I don't want to call her partner. She wasn't her partner, but she kind of worked behind the scenes for her for a long time. The one that originally, the reason I got into real estate, she was at Realty One and she became my mentor. And everything I learned from her. And I will say it until I'm blue in the face that I would not be where I am without her. Like the days, I remember the first time there was like a situation that was like, oh shit, like, how am I going to fix this? Like, and I literally was like going to have a nervous breakdown because real estate looks like it's all fun and games. Like we post like closed, under contract. Here's the fun picture at the table. Like there's a whole lot more that goes on. And we were in a negotiation with a very big agent in this area. And he was like, this is not a contract for a new agent. And I literally was like going to have a meltdown. And she, her name's Erin. She was like, okay. She's like, do you need to take a walk? Like, what do we need to do? Like, she actually now has like a chair in her office, like with tissues by it. Oh my God. Oh, because it's like sometimes stressful. You just lose your shit. Like there is, at the end of it, that's what I'm here for. I love to see people at the closing table. I had a closing last week that we almost didn't get there. I owe my friend Rachel, who I work with closely, she's a loan officer. She got that to the closing table, and to see these people's faces and to know that they're finally like in their dream home, like that's important to me. Yeah. But I also get very emotionally attached to my clients and they become my friends. And that's just who I am. I can't make that separation. It's not just business for me. Everything I do it with integrity and honesty. And I feel like that's 100% necessary in this business. And if you don't have it, like you said, with the karma, I mean, those people are going to weed themselves out because this isn't just about making money. Do I want to be successful and make money? Yes, absolutely. But for me, it's not just about making a whole bunch of money. It's about being able to give back. Yeah. And I've always taught my children the importance of that. Like, like Thanksgiving one year, we went and bought a whole bunch of groceries and donating to the food pantry because there was times when I didn't have any freaking food in my refrigerator. Yeah. So now as I continue to grow, that's why I look for like, okay, when am I ready to go talk to other domestic violence survivors and try to get them into opportunities, and show them that it is possible to turn your life around and become something despite of what you've been through.
This is a rhetorical question, but I want to ask you. You grew up in a middle upper class neighborhood. Mm-hmm. You pretty much had everything you wanted as a kid materialistically.
Yeah.
Do you think if you never went through the abusive relationship and pretty much being broke down to nothing, do you think you'd still have that same mindset about wanting to give back if you lived a quote unquote picture perfect life? Or do you think you have a newfound respect for those who are struggling?
I don't know. I think it's hard to say, how things would have turned out if things were different for me.
Were you a generous child and young adult?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you would still.
Yeah. Well, my mother's like that, very much so. My mom, all of my family is, I should say. But my mom is the one that the compassion, like she's always been like, she would be the one that like would bring a kitten home and, and I continued that, to.
Yeah. So did we.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I know it was a rhetorical question and all, but I think there's a lot of people out there that are very selfish.
Oh yeah.
They only care about themselves and that they have what they need, whether it's materialistically or emotionally, and they're not worried about anybody else but themselves. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like you were ever that person. You were always making sure everybody was okay, trying to fix people.
I did. Yeah. Right? I mean, there was a point obviously where I withdrew, and I do think that there is some people, even maybe family members, that look at me and think that maybe the way that I handled things, like with my divorce, when I was struggling, that was selfish. But that's why I always try to advocate for, I think, and I don't want to go too far off here, but like in school, like they don't educate you on mental health enough. They don't educate you on addiction enough. And it is absolutely everywhere. People that you have no idea are dealing with this stuff are dealing with it.
Well, Amanda, we grew up in the same generation.
Yeah. Oh, I
Health
watched
class.
5 friends commit suicide, like in junior high and high school, like that I went to school with. Like it was absolutely horrible. And you would think that it would be more talked about, but you're still not supposed to talk about it. Yeah. That's why, I don't know the Dejanovics well. Tom was Sawyer's coach at one point, but when that whole thing happened, I just literally, I felt for her. I lost my cousin to suicide. Not nearly the same thing as a child, but like seeing the impact that she's been able to make in the community and like show we need to talk about this stuff. Yeah. We need to talk about mental health. We need to talk about addiction because they're so, I don't know, just in talking to the kids, like the stuff that goes on in the high school, like you were like cool if you went behind the gym and smoked a cigarette in high school.
Right.
Now they're vaping and smoking in the bathrooms and doing whatever else.
Selling
and kids
drugs
are overdosing.
In
and and I'm like, and I'm not like naive, but at the same time, I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously they can't search every single kid that comes into the school, but it just blows my mind that kids don't know the consequences or the potential issues or, like how many of those kids are going to become addicted to substances and take it further and further. And, maybe, they're going down the wrong path if they're starting to smoke weed in the bathrooms in high school. Sorry.
Well, kids have zero respect for authority anymore. And I say that
very true.
As a global statement because it's pretty much true. Mm-hmm. Kids are telling their teachers to shut the fuck up, and the teachers are like listening.
Well, everybody's in fear of like saying something back because they're so,
everything is overanalyzed and it is disturbing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to fix this world, but
just keep doing you and be kind. And that's all I try to teach my kids the same thing. And it's hard. It is. It's, when your son comes home upset and, people are being mean, it's like, I wish I could fix it for you, but I can't physically go in the school and do it for you. It's just trying to teach them to be good people.
So let's circle back to real estate.
Yeah.
We're going all over the place. How you said to be a good real estate agent, you have to create your own brand and be different. Mm-hmm. How have you done that?
Well, before I was even licensed, I literally did hours and hours of research to see, because the woman I learned from, she branded herself. And it's not, a lot of people will brand themselves with their names. And there are people that obviously they have teams, are very successful. I mean, there's one that's going to be your guest. I have a great deal of respect for her. She's a freaking badass.
I was going to ask you.
No, if we're good. Like we interact. Yeah. Our kids are in the same grade. We're not like best friends. She's invited me to like things in her home. We have mutual friends and everything, but she is good at what she does.
She is.
She's excellent at what she does. So I've watched her speak. Yeah. I've asked her questions. So
that's Jen Mascaro.
Yeah.
Jen. She's going to be sitting
here in
your seat in 2 weeks. Jen sold us this house.
Yeah. I think I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
But yeah, she is a badass.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask what that relationship was like, because I know this is a competitive market.
It is.
But you also have respect for those who are...
plenty for those people that hustle.
Yeah.
And I think that's, there's nothing... she's never expressed any kind of like animosity to me for doing well. Right. I know that she does extremely well, especially in this area too. Yeah. She has built her business, and I respect her for that very much.
That's respectful of you to say that. So what is your brand? What makes you different, Amanda?
Oh gosh. Aside from the actual like ACT slogan, like I'm the Steel City agent, I've pushed that. The slogan I semi kind of branded was the dreams made real. But when I meet people, I'm my genuine self. Yeah. And I met a gentleman a couple weeks ago, and I went up against somebody very well known in the city, has been a real estate agent for a very long time. And I won that listing. And he said to me after the fact, I picked you. I went with my gut. He said, because you are somebody that I can see has a great deal of integrity. And I was like, wow. So I am, I'm myself. Yeah. Like I'm professional, obviously, but I just listed one yesterday, and I had met this lady several different times, and we left on Wednesday. She told me she loved me.
That's the best,
and
isn't it?
I was like, do I say it back? Like, I don't know.
Is this weird?
I don't know. But she's this, she lost her husband 6 years ago. She's, needs to sell, and I'm just myself. And I genuinely do care about people. That's the answer I was looking for. Yeah, I do. And I don't want to say it's to a fault, but I went through, there was an elderly couple that I was helping at the end of the summer. And Mike and Kate and I moved this man's bed into the retirement home. I went above and beyond, which is naturally what I do. And I didn't end up getting to list the house because of some family drama. And it is what it is. Now, did it sting? Absolutely. And it wasn't because I lost the listing and the money. It was because I developed a relationship with that gentleman. And we sat down at Jenny's and had a Coke together. And hung out, and I introduced him to my friends there, and I love what I do, and I love the people that I meet, and it's not all fun and games. Like I said, there's days where there's other agents. Definitely not going to say names, but it's like, holy moly, if you really don't like your job that much, then find a different one. Right. That goes for any job out there. Oh my gosh. Amanda, everyone's so fucking miserable anymore. Yeah. The pharmacy, the drive-through, everywhere you go, if it feels like you're bothering them to have them do their job. Yeah. What is that? True. Entitlement. I don't know. And I don't know, maybe I'm a little off with this, but I feel like a lot of that started to and got even more amplified after COVID. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, it's you go disturbing. Places and it's like, we had a waitress. Sawyer and I went to Mad Max one night, and she just was like, I mean, she wasn't bad. She got things in a timely manner. And, I did it for a long time. So naturally, I always like analyze people a little bit. But I left her a good tip and said thank you. Like, maybe it made her smile. I don't know, but it was like, and I get it. Like, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Like, you want to go home. Sure. Like, I've been there too, but I don't know.
I went through a drive-through one time, and the person on the speaker actually made me feel uncomfortable. Like, I was, is it after hours? I'm like, like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
I actually said, you good? Like, you having a good day? Like, trying to, I don't want to say call them out, but it's just like, is it that bad?
Yeah.
And like you said, if you don't like your job, get another one. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, people like that probably hate any job they have.
Yeah. It's funny because it seems to be like one or the other. Either I'm dealing with somebody that's just like, I don't know. I mean, I can't tell too many stories because I can't say names or anything, but there's some that I'm just like, I know that this is what this person, like when I meet them in person and I'm like spot on. Yeah. And, they try to like, whether or not they know you're a new agent, they like try to get stuff by you. And there's, those contracts are legally binding. Like, if you miss something, you're in deep shit.
Yeah.
And there's, they'll send something over and, well, we need this and this. And I'm like, does that work for other people? Like, do you get them to just sign papers without like, I don't know. It's just baffling to me.
Yeah. So the question I asked you, what makes you different? You care about people.
Yeah.
You care about your customers. Sometimes to a fault, you said. Mm-hmm. I'm the same way. I'm guilty of, I make every client I have becomes my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I become, attached to them to the point where you almost feel personally responsible if they don't succeed.
Yeah.
Like, if you lost a deal, you would probably feel like it was your fault, even if it was like out of your control.
Yeah.
Like if the inspection went to shit or some other, financial issue, like you'd probably feel responsible to some extent because you want them to be happy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it happens all the time. I mean, I work with a lot of investors. That's one thing that I started to do from the beginning. And a lot of that was because of the brokerage that I went into. A lot of us work with investors, and that's been very, very good for me. About a year ago, an investor within our brokerage who owns a lot of rentals in the area and flips homes, he wanted somebody else to work like with him. Now, I'm not like, we are like a team, but I do my own thing. And then I also work with him, and we do a lot of that too. But, I don't know where I was going with that. Of course, lost my train of thought, but
it's okay.
Anyway,
back to like reasons you can lose a deal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's one investor, I mean, he was at a property this morning. I couldn't go with them because I had to be at an open house. Like, we've lost like 6.
Yeah.
You get outbid but it's sometimes a different world and they're used to that a little bit when you're bidding on these properties that need rehabbed versus like, $300,000-$400,000 houses. Right. But, I met a couple, they moved here last May from Seattle, and we lost their first one, and they were so upset. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, and then I found them a place, had to get pretty freaking creative, but we won and we got it. And, they're there now. And I actually, moving forward, will be working with him and his company from Seattle. So
awesome. That's
pretty, and he said that on the meeting. We did it Zoom with his bosses in Seattle. And he was like, it sounds like I was going to mention this. So my necklace says, I'm a ray of fucking sunshine. So that kind of tells you I am a very nice person, and I'm a very nice person to work with. But if you mess with me, I 100% am going to like, no. So something happened in the inspection process, and there was a charge that it was way outrageous. And so I challenged them, and I said, I want to see the hours. What did you require? Like, what was your payment per hour? How much time were you there for? And I said, because you left and came back, and the actual homeowner was like doing some of the things that would be classified as your job. I went to bat for them, and I got $200 off of this bill. And at the end of it, like, they have a gorgeous little daughter, and I love doing the closing gifts. And he put his neck out for me to his bosses and said, I want to work with her. Like, if we start to do, business here in Western Pennsylvania, I want her to work with us.
That's awesome. So good for you.
Just be me. And
well, it sounds like it's working for you.
Yeah.
You've had some, I follow you on social media, and, I see closings. It seems like every other day from you. I know it's not that frequently, but sometimes it seems like it. So when you have to do an open house, and this is just me being curious at this point, what do you as the agent have to do other than be there?
To do an open house. So if you're doing it, so a majority of the time I'm doing it for another agent, like within my brokerage. If I have like a listing, I'll see if there's other agents that want to sit an open house. First of all, your goal during that is to get more buyers, like new agents, and will do them because they're trying to build a client base. And so I've actually, it happened in Plum with my friend Dina. She had the listing. I did the open house. We did a pre-approval at the open house and we won and got the contract. But basically what you're doing is, obviously allowing people to come in and tour the house. I guess like if you mean like prep wise, you have to.
Do you have to are you in there vacuuming and cleaning?
No.
And
I mean, if there's something in the house that's like obvious that you need to like take care once you go into it, then I guess you would kind of. But no, I mean, for the most part, these houses are like ready to be shown because they're already on the market. But you look up the disclosures beforehand to see what the details of the house are. If somebody, I can't memorize every single one, but when was the roof put on and how old is the water heater and, things like that. Basically that's like and as far as prep, like, I kind of do, like, I take stuff with me. Like I started to take like the bottles of root beer with my logo and the bottle opener, which goes back to me bartending. And if I have a loan officer come with me, like she'll always bring like chocolate covered marshmallows. Like you want people to come in and feel comfortable talking to you and feel like home. Your job is to make them feel like it could be their home. So they want to buy it.
It makes sense. Yeah. It sounds obvious. But yeah, I mean, have you seen the movie American Beauty? Mm-hmm. With Kevin Spacey. And,
it's been a long time though. Yeah.
Wow. What was that? Anyways, so Kevin Spacey's wife in that movie, I cannot remember her name, very famous actress. She's doing an open house and she's scrubbing the stove and vacuuming and cleaning the windows. And
like, I don't ever put like frickin' cookies in the oven, if that's what you mean. Like we will like light candles and stuff like that. Yeah. And sometimes I'll like open windows. Obviously you have to see what the listing agent and the clients are comfortable with. Some people don't want a loan officer there. Some people don't want like food if it's, but you just kind of go in, familiarize yourself with the space and hope that a whole bunch of people show up. I'm trying to think of the most I've ever had. I think 16 might be still, like 15 or 16 people is the most. That's and some of them can get,
that's crowded.
Crazy. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember your first closing ever?
Yes, because it was somebody from Plum that has a house on Salzburg. He was actually one of Caden's coaches. It was his girlfriend. So I absolutely do. And they didn't know until the closing table it was my first one because I was too afraid to tell him. But he reached out to me and he actually kind of watched my journey a little bit and saw some of the hard stuff. And because he was Caden's football coach at one point, I was on the football board with them. And when he called me, I was like so excited to help them and then to get them to the finish. It's a pretty good feeling. Yeah, you never forget your first closing. I mean, I don't know how you could. Yeah. I don't forget most of my closings, but
I'm obviously not a real estate agent, but I figured you would remember your first one.
Yeah.
So you still, this is off topic, but you still keep in contact with your mom?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
She was just here.
Is she proud of you?
She is. She is very proud of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are good now. We're close now. Not that we weren't close, but she has been the one person, even if there was a point in time in our lives where things weren't good and we were butting heads, she has always been the one constant for me. Always. I have a good relationship with my dad. We talk often. It's just, I didn't grow up with him. I didn't grow up with those siblings. So it's harder because we don't really know each other.
Yeah.
And, we're making the wedding plans are kind of starting and talking about dates. And, all of my family lives on the West Coast. All of them. I have this was a very sentimental moment for me. I met Mike's parents for the first time. I think this might have been the second time we met, but I was over there for Christmas, and they were asking me a question, and I said, well, I don't have any family in the area. And his mom looked at me and she said, you do now. Oh. And I was like, yeah. That means so much to me. They send my kids birthday cards. They call and ask about the kids. And my mom is the same way with the other two as well. But that means a whole lot to me because it's always just been us here. Yeah. Like there's no blood family members. It's the close friends that I have, like my village, like I said before, of people that I wouldn't have been able to do the things that I've done. And probably more important than anybody else, my son, my oldest son, he took on so much responsibility for me and never once complained. When I had to be gone on a Saturday to show houses and do an open house, or I had to be there and then I had to go to Jenny's and I had to work. I worked at Jenny's and did real estate up until last May. Yeah. And I still will go in. I love the people that I work with there. I love the people that own it. They are genuinely they are the best people I've ever worked for, like in that industry. And so it was hard for me to detach that because I formed like relationships. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last time that we talked, I'd trained you quite a few times. This has gone back, at least a year now, probably ish. But I remember you scheduling sessions was a challenge because you were always working, and there was very few nights where you were actually free. Yeah. Were you be coming from work or, yeah.
Yeah. And there is I know you'd asked me that before when we had talked, there's really no because I've had other agents that have been doing this for a long time. How did you do this? And I'm like, I worked my ass off. I did. I started working at Realty One. I took every lead I could get. I did 1 or 2 open houses every weekend. I mean, I did the work.
Doesn't it feel good though, Amanda?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
To know that you worked for what you have.
And there was times when I was freaking exhausted. Yeah. I was working both jobs. I had the kids by myself. I still am amazed that I made it through COVID. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, to be proud of yourself, that's a big deal. Yeah. And for someone like you, who's been through hell and you've had your self-esteem and your confidence completely demolished, to be proud of yourself, you need to be proud of yourself more often, probably. Yeah. But
I still, the being enough thing, it's hard. It's hard to look at myself and be confident still. That's still something that I struggle with. And I definitely have gotten a lot better, but it's just changing that mindset is hard.
Do you feel like you have something to prove?
I guess so, in a way. Yeah. All of my siblings are extremely successful. 2 of them are doctors. The other 2 are extremely successful in sales. And there was me. I was the black sheep, the one that struggled for so long. And so now I just continually push myself. And then you add, the health stuff into the mix. It's some days I'm just what the fuck? Can I just wake up today and not have my hands hurt so bad that I can't even, you should see me try to vacuum. I look like an idiot. Seriously, but I have to move my hands around to
keep them loose.
Yeah. But, and I would have to take steroids to be able to bartend. It was a struggle, but I did, I have surgery next month on my right hand. So we'll see how that goes. It definitely has gotten better, but it would be nice to wake up after a year and a half and not have, the pain there.
How do your hands feel right now?
They're not bad. This weather kills me.
They feel good enough to arm wrestle me?
Yeah, no.
You want to arm wrestle?
You're going to kill me. Like, look at my fingers all fat.
Okay. We won't arm wrestle in this episode only. But I
need to hit the gym a few more times before I
do have a question for you, though.
No.
And I was going to ask you this while we were arm wrestling, because that's what I do.
Oh.
If 10-year-old Amanda was sitting in my seat, what would you have to say to her?
Oh, my God. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of times I wanted to. I wish I could go back to, I don't know. I struggle with that too. Like, you go back and like, what if it was like this? Like you said, what if you had grown up or differently? I don't know, but this struggle created me.
Exactly.
It did.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point now where I'm comfortable enough talking about my story and my struggles and the things that were out of my control, the things that were in my control, like all of that shaped me into this person. And someday I will get to the point where I don't care about judgment. I don't care what other people's opinions are. Maybe. And if not, whatever. But I gradually,
I'm sure it'll get better.
Get better at it. But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. You have so much thrown at you, you're supposed to look like this, like from the media. You're supposed to, it's overwhelming.
And that is why kids are in the situation they're in today, is because the social media is just so toxic, and it's brainwashing every single one of these young minds that are looking through all of this of how they should look and how they should act and how they should talk and the people they should date. It's all to try to fit into some fake reality, and that's a big part of, I think, why kids are the way they are today.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. If we took social media away from everyone on this planet for 30 days, what effect do you think it would have?
Oh, gosh. I think people would learn how to have a face-to-face conversation or pick up the phone and have a conversation instead of, interacting through Instagram or Facebook. I can't, my kids have no idea, because it's been, we've always had it. I don't know. It's hard to imagine it now.
Right.
Like the one day that the phones went, remember, I have AT&T.
AT&T,
so they went for half the morning and I'm out showing houses, no service, no nothing, no internet. Like I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me to think that we are so dependent. Like,
I know.
I used to be in the cordless phone in the corner, when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And now it's
printing out directions on MapQuest.
Yeah. And it's not that I can't appreciate the advancements that we have, but at the same time, so many of them are so negative.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So negative.
So here's what I think this is what I think would, oh my God. Use your words, Shaun. This is what I think would happen if we took social media away for 30 days. The first week would just be anger. People would be fucking miserable because they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. But I think slowly, like you said, new relationships would be formed. You would start viewing the world not through this anymore, but with your own two eyes.
Yeah.
And you start appreciating things a little bit more. You start appreciating your loved ones more. You'd start connecting with people like you've never connected before. All the toxicity would be eliminated. I think it would be incredible.
Yeah.
For the planet.
Facebook should do another, we're broke for 2 hours or whatever.
So I was in Texas when that happened.
Okay.
I don't scroll social media very often, just out of leisure. I use it as a business tool. Okay. I was, got the login screen. I'm like, okay, whatever. I was fine. But I can't imagine the people that rely on that so much. They probably what do I do now?
Yeah.
But
it's a form of an addiction.
Oh, it's the dopamine thing.
Yeah.
It's a hit. Dopamine hit.
The ones that you see. I mean, no offense to them that are like the selfies and stuff all the time. Like,
yeah,
you know, I don't know. Like it's you get the likes and the interactions, and they even swear. Like he's like, Mom, I don't even know where the heck it came from. They have a TikTok and it's called the Barrel Clan, and it's literally like a barrel and like different. I don't know. It's the stupidest thing ever. But he's 12, and he's like, Mom, I had like so many people watch it, and it's not him. So I'm like, you know, like he's monitored, but I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't know. But it's.
People are feeding off acceptance from complete strangers, you know?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's a shame.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
So my parting question for you, what is your end goal? If you could take a snapshot of like your perfect life, I know you're getting married soon. Mm-hmm. What do you see?
So like I had mentioned before, one of the most important things for me is to be able to give back. And so, you know, I can't say exactly how that will look moving forward, but I know with continued excess will come like the money to be able to do things like that. There are things that him and I have talked about, Mike and I have talked about, you know, as far as business wise and what direction we're going to go with it. Would love to have a team someday. I would love to get to that point, but I also know that I am still, you know, I'm not even 3 years in. And so I need to learn from the good ones. I need to watch how they do it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, taking money and material, I mean, I'm not materialistic, not any away. Like the biggest thing that matters to me is that my family and my children are healthy and happy. Yeah. I don't, you know, money has caused such issues in my past. Like, I don't care. I love my fiance. I don't care if we live in a freaking shack. But
I think money can have real negative effects on people. It sometimes I think, you know, when you see these big jackpots for these lotteries, the 500 million, like winning that much money would almost scare me. I would be afraid that I would change.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, most people probably would. I wouldn't want money to define who I am.
Yeah.
It's scary. You know, I think you would lose focus on who you are. Like
using that to just be able to do more and do, you know, contribute more. I think that's like, as far as my goal in real estate, that is, but you know, personally, it's just, you know, to see the kids happy, to see them to succeed. Like Caden, for the longest time, never ever wanted anything to do with school. He went into Forbes. We always thought he was going to go into a trade. He kind of was in this stuck place from like October until I guess it would have been beginning of March. And then trying to figure out, what do you want to do? You know, not push him. He came to me one day and he was like, Mom, I think I made a mistake. I want to go back to school. And I will always support anything he wants to do. He texted me the other night. Now, this kid is one of the smartest kids I know, but he won't let you know that. He never did when he was in school. And he's got all B's in college right now. And college is it's a whole different ballgame than high school. Right. And I mean, that just, I cried. Like, I'm sappy. I was literally said, I'm so freaking proud of you.
Good.
You decided what you wanted to do and you did it. And just to see all the kids do that, to follow their dreams and become good people, then I at least did my job.
Yeah. Sounds like you're doing a great job. And being what you've been through, like some people would go the complete opposite direction than you did, Amanda, you know? Like they would be in just a tunnel of darkness and have no way to get out. But not to be too cliche, but you found the light and you found your way out, and you continue to lead towards a brighter life. So you should be proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Any questions for me?
I don't think so.
No. You good? All right. Well, thanks for opening up.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
If anybody watching or listening to this is dealing with domestic abuse, are you willing to be a sounding board?
And one thing I did want to say is that I worked, and I still am in contact with the Hope Center in Pittsburgh. The one woman there, she's just been absolutely amazing with everything that I've had to go through, court dates and this and that. And, how do I deal with it this time? And like I did mention, I am hoping, moving forward to be able to work with some of those women. I just have to figure out, how to make that happen. But anybody that's going through a situation with domestic violence, men, women, it happens. It's not just women that it happens to. Obviously, you just have to find it within yourself to ask for help, because I don't know the statistic, but I know that a lot of times it ends very, very badly. And I am one of the fortunate people that got out of it in time, because there's no doubt in my mind that if I would have tried to stay, that I wouldn't be alive still.
Well, it's a pretty compelling thing to say, but hearing your story, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
It was definitely heading in that direction. So if you are dealing with any sort of domestic abuse, violence, you're not alone. Ask for help before it's too late, please. I'll put some information on some hotlines that you can contact and outreach probably before the episode starts. But I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
And I will see you on the next episode of Barbells and Bourbon. Peace.